true scent of the plant. I don't know if you've ever smelled an essential oil and think, that's not what my rosemary, it doesn't exactly smell like that. And that's why, because with essential oils you're getting certain properties. And I just might mention that the ones done with the CO2, it's very fast, it's very effective for, if you want the spiritual qualities, what they call the spiritual qualities, creative qualities of these plants, you're better with distilled. And glass is a great way to distill your herbs.
Steam distillation.
Yes, steam distillation. Lavender it's effective for a lot of cancers, but of course not hormone cancers, okay? But other types. If I give out all that information, we'll be here all day. I've done several different YouTube shows on that, and they're not too long. They're like 10 minutes you can go through, and they're listed with a title so you know kind of what you're looking at. But there's certain ones that are very good for different types of cancer. And lavender is really good for pain. It's really good for anxiety and depression. And I guess I'm getting too close to you, Gail, or are you all right? You're sitting in your lap practically. People don't realize how much anxiety and possibly even depression or depressed moods makes a difference in your health. You can't be healthy and that anxious or that depressed. And it's not to make fun, I don't mean that, but it just accents to me how much aromatic herbs can make a difference in our lives. If you're feeling depressed or sad and you don't even want to get up in the morning, your whole body is depressed, your immune system is depressed, so you need something herbal to lift you up. And if you're not sleeping at night, then try the chamomile tea as long as your eyelids don't swell shut, like Teresa's. But anyway, those are things we can work on and should work on, not only with ourselves but with other people. And it's usually not considered interfering with any medical treatment. And I'm complementary medicine. I'm not for this or that alone, but I've seen it all work very beautifully and well. But I would never tell people, people come over a lot of times that consult with me privately. It's like, oh, I don't do anything that, is not natural. Well, almost all the chemotherapy drugs were made from herbs. So Taxol for one. So we have to qualify what's best for us, and I just want to make sure I'm not coming across like I want you to do that and not your regular drugs. The things that you have to worry about is whether somebody, like peppermint, can cause a problem with GERD. So you have to know these things about yourself or who you're working with to know if that particular herb is going to work. If it doesn't, there's a lot of other herbs we could use in its place, right? So it's good to have that information. It's good to keep that in mind. Look it up. I mean, you can look up maybe side effects or something of different herbs to make sure. I think hypertension is the worst. And 70-something% of the population between 55 and 70 have hypertension. So we want to be careful with that, okay, with what herbs we use with that, okay? I wish she agrees. I'm so glad.
It's like peppermint is a carminative.
Yes, it is a carminative. But if you have GERD, it inflames it, yeah.
Yeah.
You'd think it would, it would calm it down eventually, but not usually.
Well, I mean, it's claimed to be a carminative.
Well,
but if it does irritate,
as a tea, I think you'll have the best effect, and you can dilute it the most. Or you could use a little bit of peppermint and maybe some lemon balm or lemongrass with it. You see what I'm saying? So you can mix things in your compress, in your teas, and however else you do it. If you're doing essential oil blends, there's ways to layer those with different essential oils, and you can make something that would be medicinal for yourself or another person. I'm a big rose person. Y'all know I grow over 80 old roses, at least, well, that's in one house, one garden, and another one, well, we've got at least a dozen more. And the properties of roses are very compatible with most everybody. I have met one person who said, I love rose oil, I love the smell of it, so she can inhale it and get the benefits from it. But she said, I don't wear it well. So, okay, that's one person, and I've been doing this 45 years. There was a guy that wanted me to go out with him, and he didn't like roses. He said, I hate roses. I mean, he could have said, I hate babies, and I would have got the same reaction, you know? So it's like, no, I'm not going to be your friend at all. So roses have a very high vibration. I don't know how to say that, but when you smell it, you just lift it up. And as far as a plant, it has the highest vibration of any flowering plant. That vibration is what also is part of the smell, okay? It's a property of it. And that brings your body up. If it's depressed, if it's immune depressed, if it's recovering, it can be a scent that's very, very, very beneficial. And it's certainly topically great for the skin. I don't go a day without rose on my skin somehow. Usually a rose water or something like that. And it's just very beneficial, very regenerative. And it's very good for lots of different problems that we would call emotional, okay? So rose geranium has a very similar scent, and it's actually very lovely. And it's good along with rose for menopausal symptoms, from menarche all the way through menopause and postmenopause. Geranium and rose geranium. Okay. and rose scent can be or as a compress on the body, perfect for many, many types of things like that. And men do very well with them too, because it's so beneficial for the mood of the whole. Your mood is your whole body. Some people separate that, but there's no separation. You can't be happy and, your limbs are falling off. You're going to be in pain or whatever it is. And rose geranium are rose, I'm talking about the old roses, because they're the ones that, many of them make the rose oil and the lovely rose waters that we have. And the Kozilnak, if I'm saying that right, the Bulgarian rose that almost all the rose oil in the world is made from, we can grow that plant here. I grow that rose, and it's lovely. And so we can bring that property into our own gardens and be able to make rose whatever that we want to make. And don't forget the rose hips on some of these plants. Those are also beneficial. With rose hips, you have to make sure that the person doesn't have a skin reaction or some kind of allergic reaction to it. We'll try it on you and see.
So I'm growing Rosa canina for the first time, and since they're in their first year, I don't have rose hips. They didn't bloom yet.
Okay.
But I'm wondering about next year. It's like you read my mind.
Interior. The Rosa Interior is another.
Yeah.
Not many petals, but
A lot of hips. Yeah, some of them, in Sweden, they actually lived on it, like in the 1100s or before that, because they didn't have hardly any food that was growing there and no way to import it. So they ate rose hip food. Yeah, they got a lot of nutrition, and it was a good food. The first like irises and all those bulb plants that came over from the Middle East and whatever, it came to Europe. They ate them because they thought it was a food. And Europe in the 1100s or so only had like 4 major foods that were like vegetables. So,
They were hungering for green.
They were, I don't know about that, but they thought it looked like an onion, so they just ate them,
No.
onions are wonderful.
Onions are great.
They have about I remember a word, allyl isothiocyanate. I'll never be able to say it again. Allyl isothiocyanate is sort of a sulfonamide, that fiber.
Yes.
and it was an antibiotic.
Yes. And it's in garlic and it's in onions. It's a sulfur-bearing amino acid, and it detoxifies the body, and topically or internally it can kill bugs.
When I was 5 years old in the first grade, I had a spider bite on my wrist from playing outside. And it was time to go to school. My mother sliced an onion, big old hot stinky onion, and slapped it on there, put tape around it, made me wear it to school. I was so embarrassed. But when I got home that afternoon, when she took the onion off, there was a big black spot where it had soaked the osmosis, I guess, pulled the toxin out.
I've been bit by recluse spiders before, and that I can't take onion and garlic internally anymore, but I used it externally, and the doctor said, "What did you do?" Because, I mean, just immediately you have parts of your flesh just falling off of you anywhere it touched. And the funny thing is they didn't give me anything for that, but they told me I had to take an antihistamine because I was so allergic that I had an allergic reaction to it. And so I thought, I paid $150 for that. Anyway, at least I knew what to do in the next time if it happened. Sage we mentioned sage and clary sage, two different plants, both have beautiful properties to them that are clary sage. Clary sage, green clary sage is the most beautiful scent. Clary sage essential oil smells like old shoes to me, okay? It's very, but I tell you what, if somebody has anxiety, they smell it, or you make a little blend or compress for them, you'll bring it down like that. I mean, I had people that wanted to get off their psychiatric drugs, and I can't tell them to do that, but I gave them that opportunity, and over a short time, they did well with their doctor's approval to do that. So, they retrained their brain in a sense. Interesting. Now, regular sage is good for a decongestant. It's good for muscle aches. It's good for the memory, just that plain. Now, the essential oil is the Salvia latiflora, okay? But even the sage that we grow in our gardens, and here it is.
That's a stinky one.
Is that which sage?
This is a garden sage.
Thanksgiving.
Thanksgiving.
Ooh.
That one has, we have over 800 sages that grow in Texas. So that is one that we can use medicinally, although it doesn't have a lot of essential oil. Most people aren't using essential oil of that. But if they are, you have to, again, take in the hypertensive people. And, there's not a lot of people that have epilepsy, but the ones that do, you have to be careful with them, okay? And one thing I can tell you about sage is, when I used to teach at UTA, that was one of, I talked about all of our classic garden herbs. And when sage came up, the gentleman that was with his wife, he was retired, and she came up at the beginning of the class. She said, "I can't get rid of him. He comes everywhere. But don't worry, he won't bother anybody. He'll just, put this newspaper up and watch it." Hey. And so on throughout the class, I talked about sage and thyme and how good it was for flus and colds. And she got a flu bug or something. And he said, "Well, haven't you tried the sage and thyme?" And she looked at him, she said, "I didn't think you were listening all that time." So, it's an important herb to have in your garden if you don't. And again, it's one that will grow throughout the winter, and you'll have it there with your thyme. Any time you get a flu or a cold, then we want to be using that. You can smell it, you can make a tea. But the tea with sage tastes like Thanksgiving without the turkey. So you might want to put some lemon thyme or some thyme or something else in there, not rosemary, please. It's just smell the rosemary. And that could be beneficial. And even a diluted form of those teas could be used with children, just very diluted. Try it out. I tried everything out on my kids, and they all lived. The twins are getting ready to turn 53, and the youngest one just turned 48. I told them that, don't call me Mom in public, because they have gray hair. Everybody's gonna know how old I am, You have to think of those things. Do we have questions? Is there an herb you want to talk about that we haven't?
Okay,
Cannabis.
one year we had sage as the herb of the month, and I made a.
Talk up, because we've
Okay,
got,
I made might not be using the right word, a smudge bundle where you can burn
Yeah.
it. And I was asked what sage I used, and I said, just to show you how to make it, I just used the sage in my garden. But the Native Americans used the Pacific sage.
It was the white sage.
Can we grow the white sage?
I've tried, it doesn't grow well, it loves our no rain in the summer, but in the spring when we get those really big rains, it'll just drown it right out. You could grow it in a pot, but you may have to bring it in and out a little bit you don't want it to get a lot of rain. I mean, it gets almost no rain. It grows in New Mexico and places like that.
Okay, because when we had the monsoon season this year, my sage was beautiful, the regular sage was beautiful, it was blooming, and I looked out there a couple of weeks later, and I had half a dead sage
Oh,
and
I did
half a
too.
regular because too much water.
Too much water.
And I had to go out and clip it, and as soon as I got rid of the dead part, it was just alive again, and everything was fine.
Sage is about living long. In Elizabethan times, sage was all about long life, and I believe it. From growing it, it's just fantastic. Now, you were asking about cannabis, weren't you?
For seizures, FDA approved for children, I thought.
Here, I just want to tell you
Just for
something
seizures.
about, seizures. If the doctor okays that instead of medication, I've studied with all different cultures, and the Oriental cultures will only use cannabis seeds as a laxative. They claim, and I actually agree, that the whole plant is toxic. It has a very low level of that frequency we talked about that we can really smell and feel with rose. CBD is way down. Whether you're using it for pain, peppermint's better because it stimulates your circulation and gets things moving. Ginger root. But CBD is, it's going to dull your brain and it's going to dull your liver. It actually slows your liver and your brain. So I would be very cautious about using it. That's me.
I worked Jenny Seeley Psychiatric when I was working Galveston, UTMB, and I spent a couple of years over there, and you got to see the marijuana, and you got to see a lot of stuff. And I've been sort of I'm anti-drug. I don't even I take collagen for pain.
That's a good idea.
That's all I do for arthritis.
Mhm.
But I do have a friend that had a stroke, and he lost his English. He lost his ability to read music. So I brought his music. I started him over like a little kid. And in about 3 months, his ability to read music came back. His English came back. He was solamente español, but his English eventually came back. But he gets really flustered if he's trying to think of a word and he's trying to talk. He just gets very hyperactive. And his friend says, just a minute. And she puts about 2 drops of CBD oil. I don't know which one she uses.
Yeah, that's
But then
the
he
problem.
relaxes, and so I'm not as anti the
Right.
CBD that I used to be.
I know kids that were having so many seizures that their brain was going anyway, okay? So if CBD works for them, it's an herb.
And I think it was the only thing that the FDA had approved a few years ago. That was it. Otherwise, it's illegal most places.
I think it's still illegal in Texas to use
It
it
is.
at all, but is it?
Well, they
Isn't it?
21,
They're trying to
Well,
regulate it.
They're trying to regulate it.
21 and above.
Yeah. It'll be
Well,
tax
I'll
money.
have to wait a while then.
I
It's
thought
20
it
bucks.
Basic medical or doctor could
But,
prescribe.
yeah,
But
sometimes,
there's so
That
many,
was
and
it.
that's the other thing, they were having trouble identifying it, because the planters could, not mutate, but they could, tweak it. and get a different plant and maybe, get by the regulations.
It's what they spray on those plants too, yes ma'am.
What about oregano?
Oh, I didn't mention oregano, yeah. Oregano is great for pain. It might affect some hypertensives, but not usually. That's a real individual thing. So it's mostly used for lots of muscle pain, and it's a stimulant. So it's going to move circulation. If you move circulation, you're going to reduce pain and spasms and such like that. It's also very good for sinus infections and such like that. I would rather use a compress, okay, than drinking essential oils or something, but you could smell essential oils, that could help. But a compress right in here or right here could be very beneficial. And if they can handle rosemary or some of our other herbs we talked about and sage, that would be a double whammy. It would make it that much more effective.
Yeah, I thought oregano was good for viral issues.
Yeah, it
that-
is. Sinus is, yeah,
Okay.
it can be viral. I didn't
But
specify.
topically or in,
How would you take it internally? Like a tincture, like this lady mentioned, you could do that. You could do that. It's not gonna be toxic at all. It shouldn't
The
be.
mint's good, the oregano is terrible.
She said the
It
oregano
has a
is
very
not.
bitter.
Yeah, I can't be around oregano and not think of pasta, so,
yes.
Even the alcohol doesn't.
A very basic question. When you're saying we're using these herbs as a compress, are you talking warm compress, hot compress? How, is this with paper towel on a compress that you're putting on? Can you explain a little bit more about the compress?
compresses is when you, if you can, grind up or bruise your herbs and then make a very strong, like a tea. Yeah, you can use a blender, but you make a very, very strong tea. And you don't want to boil your herbs ever. If
I
they're
know, it's
leafy, you don't. But you simmer the water. You can have the water come to a simmer. Then you cover it, you remove it from the heat, and you let it steep. That's our word. Nobody understands that word.
I know what a steep
herbalists.
is.
But it just sits there, okay? And after 10 minutes or 15, you can strain it, and you take that water, and I always put a wash rag in there.
Just a cloth? Put a
Yeah,
cloth
some
on it.
kind of clean cloth. I mean, a paper towel is going to disintegrate.
Right,
And,
right.
and you put it on the body. Where do you put it? Well, if your back
Thank
hurts,
you.
I would put it there. There's a lot of times you can just put it on your stomach. Believe me, that's a pathway to everything. So
Or soak your feet, could you soak your
you
feet in
could
it
soak your
too?
feet. Rosemary soaks are still great. Those are still great things. Yes, ma'am.
How about valerian?
Valerian
I had to convince my cardiologist on this one. Okay.
Valerian is one you have to be careful with, but it can be very good for sleep, especially if the person's a smoker or if they have real irregular sleep, like one day they sleep, the next day they don't. Valerian root is very good for that. It's very good for anxiety. It's very good for pain. It's very heating. It is a root. Roots are heating in the body. Leaves are more cooling, and flowers. So it's heating in the body, and you have to be careful because the person will start getting very hot if it's overused. And during menopause is not the best time to use that, but you caution yourself to find the right dose or whatever. It's not really addictive like people thought it was. It's really not addictive unless
We
you
have
just
a lot
took
of
a ton of it.
family members with overactive minds. They lose sleep because they can't calm it down. So I found a blend of valerian and lemon balm and a little bit of peppermint, and the combination kind of chills everybody out. Doesn't
That's
zonk
excellent.
them out. It just kind of calms this overactive.
Market it. We have, sleep
Yeah.
is one of the worst, I mean,
Yeah.
33 to 55% of adults have sleep problems,
Yeah.
serious ones. And that can't be good for your health. Yes, ma'am?
Catnip, catmint. So, you read sometimes they're cousins, but
They are.
do you use either one of those?
I have.
Okay. How?
I used them as a compress,
Okay.
and I've used them as a tea just to try it out.
Okay. It's an interesting
Your
taste.
cat, I mean, if you made a tea, my cat's crazy about it.
Yeah,
In
they
fact,
would-
he slept on my plant that I had in the
Yeah.
yard and ate it and just,
But the cats are funny because my cats will touch cat mint, but they won't touch cat nip.
Mhm.
You do have weird cats.
yeah.
I have the weirdest
Mine eat
animals.
both.
think they're-
So I grow it in
They
hanging
usually-
baskets now,
Yeah.
so I can have some.
See,
I thought if it's good for the cat, I'll just try it myself.
Okay.
And I had a big project to turn in, a big research writing project for a hospital. And I had this cat tea. I made it really strong so I wouldn't be anxious, because then my guts go crazy. And I just felt like a stone, you know, like a rock. I was just like, I did not finish my project. But yes, I made it really strong. And then I went to the hospital the next day, and they could have cared less. They said, "What was the name of that?" Because I think I was like stoned or something. I really didn't do
Wow.
any of that stuff. I was in that culture, but you know,
Okay.
I didn't do it.
Okay.
So it's very calming if you make it.
Okay, no, I make it real weak if I ever drink the tea, but I don't like the taste that much, so.
Yeah.
In the children's tale about Peter Rabbit going to McGrover and Mama Rabbit made a tea, in that tea was catnip tea. And so whenever I make that tea blend, as soon as I open up my thing of the catnip, here they come. And one cat likes to chew into plastic and one likes to chew in the paper. So the one that likes Bailey, you know Bailey's coming as soon as that, and he can be in the other part of the house. And as soon as I
Yeah,
start
they have
making the
great-
tea blend, there it comes.
And that's why I'm cautious about essential oils with pets,
Yeah.
because they smell 25 times better than we do. I forget.
Martina,
Martina.
so you mentioned not to use valerian if you're going through menopause. What should you use during menopause?
Or you could use small amounts of it,
Okay.
okay? Like a few drops of a nice
Just to use
tincture.
along with it.
Yeah, no, you want to use chamomile, you want to use rose and rose geranium, you want, you know, calming things. A
Well,
lot
I'm
of
ta-
women do good with lavender at that time.
I'm talking about like the hot flashes.
The hot flashes, some people use peppermint for it.
Okay, that's what I thought.
And because it's hot, but it turns ice cold, and it stops that, it doesn't stop the hot flashes from coming again, but it stops that reaction, and it's better, you know, the doctors are prescribing antidepressants. Well, they're always trying to give women antidepressants. I don't understand it. We're a little hysterical, but not that bad, you know? But I prefer things like that than,
What about Vitex, Judy, the chase tree?
Vitex is a progesteronic herb, okay? So, the chastity plant, and it's good for PMS, it's good for people with anorexia, it's good for people with a lot of different amenorrhea, a lot of female problems, and it's considered the herb for disappointment, sort of. For, you know, if you're unhappy, they would make you some chastity tree back in Elizabethan times. And it's not a bad idea, because progesteronic effects would help you to let down and not worry about things such like that.
abortifacient.
Pardon?
It was an abortifacient.
You said abortifacient, she says.
Because
Because of the
tree,
cholesterol.
I brought Vince's on.
Yeah.
the tree seedling you told me I could have from your yard is still doing very well, and it recovered from that freeze we had.
You
And
want
it's
some
still
Hoya
doing
Santa?
very
Do
well.
you want some Hoya Santa? Because it's huge.
No, I have enough of problem with the sweet Annie. I don't need
No,
problem with the Vitex.
No, just one Hoya Santa.